everybody, and welcome back to the Replayer Podcast. Thank you so much for joining in and watching part 1 of our Drew Lewis 1-year anniversary special.
We got way more content than we ever expected from Drew. It was a little overwhelming. Thanks, Drew. But that means we have more exclusive interview with Drew for you guys, an entire another hour or so. So that's why we have part 2 with Drew.
Wow. Another hour. Oh my God. Strap in, folks. Strap in.
Strap in.
Do you have actually a favorite game? Would you say like the Uncharted era is like your favorite? I feel like you platinum a lot, right? So do you have a favorite game?
I don't know. I don't platinum a lot. There are games, but I've platinumed all the Uncharteds. I don't know if I platinumed Last of Us actually. Maybe I haven't. I can't remember on the PS3 if I did or not. I don't know. Like there's some games where platinuming just will take too much time. Like, where it's
true.
like, go do this online and you have to like play online for X and do this thing, or like.
I don't even think platinuming is a qualification for favorite game.
Right. No, but I just want to make that qualifier. I guess I'm not like one of those.
You don't actually platinum a lot of games.
Yeah. I mean, I've platinumed just a couple, but nothing on the standards that I'm sure most people that play games more than me. I don't know. Favorite game, that's tough because I've played games for so long.
True.
You almost have to be like, what's the favorite game right now? But like,
I
guess I could pick favorite games of like eras, like on the NES or like on the Xbox or something. I don't know, because it's so hard. Because I get nostalgic if I think back to like playing on the N64 and playing GoldenEye or Mario Kart, or on the SNES. Mario Kart was huge on that.
Resonates with you differently.
And it's kind of weird, but they're different games, right? I wouldn't pick that as my favorite game now.
True.
On that note, I think I just recently heard, I think it was Damon from IGN had talked about he has a 5-year cap on favorite game. Like it has, or something about like it has to be older than 5 years to be eligible for that. But I feel like an error thing is better. It's better to go by error. Era.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Some people easily can say this is my favorite game of all time, and that's easy for them, but not everybody.
I don't know if I could do that.
I feel like for someone like me, who's only been playing, like properly really been playing like the last couple of years. Like I've had a PlayStation 2, I've had a PlayStation 1, and we used to play all the time when we were kids, but I never actually followed a game thing. I wouldn't actively go out to a market and be like, oh, I want this new game and I want this and I want to try that. So actually I haven't completed a lot of games in my lifespan of gaming. So I feel like it's easier for me to just be like, oh yeah, this game would be my favorite, or this game is my preference. Like I loved Uncharted.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of Uncharted. I could always sit down and play it. It's just the best game. So I feel like that's easier for me. But coming from like yourself or like, Dan or Drew, either of you have played games like on so many different consoles, whereas really mine's just limited to PlayStation.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me.
Yeah, I've played thousands of games.
Yeah, is there a game that you're playing like right now that you're really into, or something that like you've been really in the mood to play lately?
I mean, I just finished The Last of Us 2, so that's been obviously on my mind. I was in the middle of Shadow of the Colossus, replaying that. That brought back a lot of like old school memories, and seeing the remaster is beautiful. What they did.
Yeah.
So I still haven't gotten around to that myself.
Pretty game to play. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't get a lot of time anymore to play. So it's like 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. I get like some time to kind of like sit down and play something, and that depends if I'm tired or if I still don't have work to do. So to beat a game like Last of Us, and it's been like 35 plus hours that I just did, it's sort of like I'm like,
you only just finished that. Just
I don't know if I'll play a game for a while. Yeah, it's kind of tough because of timing nowadays, adulting and whatnot, and making content. But that's been
the struggle is real.
So
it is. Yeah.
Here's a side question then: if you really like a game, do you tend to replay it? Not for like platinum reasons, but do you just tend to replay it?
Yeah, I do. Well, I do have a bit of that completionist mentality where, like for the Last of Us 2, for example, like I beat it, and I'm really one of those thorough weird gamers where I don't leave a level until I feel like I've explored.
You've explored the whole area?
Scour every little nook and cranny.
I'll open every drawer. I go to every corner of the map. I want to make sure that I haven't left anything behind. I'm weird. Like, if someone were to watch me do like a Let's Play, they'd be like, this is terrible. Like,
I have to ask you,
I've done this. Don't worry.
When I'm playing The Last of Us, I find myself always avoiding and or falling into these traps of like, you see something and you're like, I feel like if I go there, I won't be able to come back.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
if you hit one
And
of
I
those
won't-
moments where you hit that point where you're like, fuck, I just realized I can't go back now and I didn't finish looking around.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
those kill me in The Last of Us.
I will say
Yeah.
on that note, like Adam has completed the game. He's had kind of like time between, like his schedule is much different to mine. So when I actually get time to play the game, I have a little less to do it. So I'm way past. I'm only halfway, and he's just finished.
It's easy to finish
So
a game when you're a
great.
cardboard cutout, right?
Sure. But it's so great to like play with him. But like he'll be able to tell me if I'm going into a way that it'll trigger a cutscene.
I gotcha.
So thank God, because I was like, oh, maybe I want to go down this way, or maybe I want to go this way. I don't know. I'll go down here, and he'd be like, I wouldn't if you want to explore something else.
Yeah.
Like this is the way you have to go. And I was like,
Right.
oh, thank you. This saves me a lot of time, like replaying it and stuff like that, and also like gives him opportunity because he's like, I did this and I never got to go explore this thing. So we kind of have a bit of that moment
That's
going
good.
on. I mean, that's at least how it would play out if he existed in my head. That's how that works.
It's just all in your head.
It's all in my head. Okay, cool. Because the follow-up question to like, would you replay a game? I was going to ask you, would you replay The Last of Us? But I presume you are replaying it, or you've just.
I am. I'm going to replay it, but I just can't invest that
In a
much time.
while.
So I'm replaying it with just the objective of being like, I'm going to find all those coins I didn't find, or cards, or
Yes,
like upgrade all my weapons and then just get the trophy. And I'm skipping cutscenes. It's literally like one of those things where I'm just gonna like, because the gameplay in the game is fun, like it's awesome, like, and it's tense. I've never like played like the fluidity of like how Ellie and how she moves, and like the gunplay, just it's really cool. And the variation of weapons that you get to kind of like complete a section, like the silencer issue. I mean, it's really
it's
really cool. Like there's a lot of really cool the traversal in it is really good too. So like playing the encounters.
Those rope puzzles, man. Those rope puzzles are
they get you.
I appreciate those. Is what I'm saying.
You know, it's weird. I don't know why. I guess my brain works in a weird way, but like I never had a problem with any of those. I was like, oh yeah, just throw it over there and I'm good.
Yeah, I mean they're not hard.
Same.
I just appreciate the technical prowess of like the way they do the rope and like the throwing it and the being able to swing to different platforms. I never got stuck in any one of them. I've solved everyone I've found, but like they're really good about making me feel clever in the moment.
Yeah, agreed. I do wish she had like a rope like Drake did in Uncharted.
Yeah,
4.
same.
That's what I found myself doing. It's like, I wish I could just jump and woof, and throw the rope.
Like how much great would carry a rope around you? You could just traverse wherever, you know. Like I wish.
I'm like, where's my Uncharted rope?
Yeah.
So, moving on to our next question is, what game are you looking forward to coming out this year or next year? I know that you kind of mentioned Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So.
That is exciting. That looks really cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for Ghost.
Yeah, it looks great, right? I did read something though that kind of made me nervous. I'm gonna wait for reviews. I usually wait for reviews before I just buy any. I'm not a pre-order guy. I kind of like I buy something if it compels me. But I'm pretty sure I'll end up getting it. But I did read that like the download of it is only like 30 gigs or something, and I'm like, well, that's not usually conducive of like a very long game, or because it looks so great. There's no reason like it should.
I'm okay with it though. I'm okay with like look.
Yeah.
The Last of Us is a great game, but it's long, and I'm like, this game did not need to be this long. And also like the reviews for Last of Us came out and they're like 10 out of 10, and I've been playing it. I'm like, is it though? Like, are you sure? Not that I don't like it. I love the game. It's just more just like, So I feel you. Like I'm the opposite. I don't pre-order anything, but I will kind of like just be like, okay, I kind of see what this is doing and I'm interested in the story maybe, and then I'll buy it.
See, on that note, let's talk about Ghost, because I'm really excited. I've had Ghost pre-ordered for a long time. If it's not a super long game, my hope and ideal situation for that game is it's a little bit of a shorter package, but high on replay value.
Yeah.
As far as like, give me a bunch of new upgrades, give me weapons that I can like focus on. Like, ooh, I want to play through the game using this sword or that sword, or a spear instead of, or a naginata. Give me a reason to keep playing the game multiple times.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's sort of like that replayability. I think that's why Uncharted was so great, because there's just levels that like I enjoy just playing. Like if I have 20 minutes and I kind of want to play a game, I'll like load up the train level on UC2 because it's such a great level.
So great.
Just to feel like a badass, and you're like, I'm on a fucking moving train shooting dudes, and like it's dope, it's, and I could swing through windows, and I don't know. Great so complete. Other than that, I mean, I'm really interested in Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know if I will be able to play that game, only because the big scopy MMORPG kind of, or not MMORPGs, but just RPGs. I just don't have the bandwidth to kind of like dive into, right? Like, so if that's like one of those games that where you're like, I'm on hour 1,000,000 and I've yet to do anything, I don't know if I can invest. I'm having that trouble with Red Dead Redemption, where it's just such a big game.
Yes.
And to like, where I appreciate the open worldness of Red Dead Redemption, I don't have the wherewithal to be like I'll be on a horse and I'll be like, oh my God, what's that house over there? I have to go explore. There's something weird in my head.
Check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I end up like not even playing the story for 4 hours because I'm like just running around on a horse.
I think that's what happened to me with Spider-Man. I had that issue with Spider-Man. The constant distraction, the constant like pulling me in different directions is what kind of burned me out on Spider-Man prematurely. And that's why I love Spider-Man. That was a great game. But it's not as high in my mind as it is for a lot of other people because I hit that burnout with the open world.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the same about Spider-Man, but I totally get what you're saying about Red Dead Redemption. And I also kind of feel the same about Death Stranding. It's a long game to get through, and there's just so much. And same with Horizon as well.
Yeah, especially if it feels padded.
Yeah, like I'm so story focused that I'm just like, I just want to stick to the story. So when I picked up like something like The Witcher, that was a bad idea because I picked up Witcher 3 and everyone was like, you need to do side quests in order to like gain levels to get to the main story. And I was like, no, fuck this, I'm out. Like I can't, because I just want a story. I want like a fulfilling story. Each little side stuff, like.
That being said, though, some of the side missions in The Witcher are better than the main storyline.
Someone said this to me as well.
They're so good.
See, I think it's awesome, but I'm just kind of like, I'm too distracted by it. So I will never finish playing the game. It just makes sense. So like, I liked Spider-Man in the terms that like, yeah, you have all these like side missions and stuff like that, but the majority of them are all the same. And it's just copy and paste. So I felt like I wasn't missing out on something. I could do story and then replay it later. Whereas like Red Dead or Death Stranding or Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm like, oh, what's this thing? It's a cave. I want to go visit this thing. But then I'd spend hours doing it. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, I didn't get anywhere in the story. So I like games that are like The Last of Us or Uncharted, where they're like, here's an area, especially The Last of Us Part 2. I feel like they've done this, like, here's this beautiful big area to explore. And then let's funnel you into an area, because no matter what way you go, you will be funneled into the area you need to go.
See, now I've heard a lot of people fault The Last of Us for that fact that it does eventually funnel you to the right way.
Yeah, I like that.
It's all
just
different
get me on with the
takes
story,
on
like,
it.
Yeah.
Point. Like, let's get to Last of Us.
I think there's nice. You know what I really liked, and I think it's not a huge spoiler, but like there's one section in Uncharted, or I'm sorry, The Last of Us, that Anthony brought it up. That's a lot like Lost Legacy, where it's sort of like it's open world, but it's small. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Where I felt like I could explore it, but it didn't take me a million hours to kind of go through it. But I felt like I could still choose the path that I wanted to kind of explore it on. Yeah. So I kind of like that, on a small scale like that. I thought Lost Legacy was good too for that perspective. There's a part in Uncharted 4, I think, that does something similar with the Jeep. I don't
remember
know,
liking that in Lost Legacy.
Yeah, but there's still an on rails portion, but I like where it opens up a bit to give you a little bit, but it's not so big where you're like Red Dead Redemption, where I'm like, this map is basically the size of the US that I have to explore. I don't know how I'll ever do that.
See, that kills me, because I am like you, like I want to explore everything, but then I'm pissed because I want to do that, but I also want to do the story. So it's like, and I'm not a massive. It's gonna sound funny. I'm not a massive replayer. Like I don't like always playing games over and stuff like that, because I'll just get frustrated. So I like to just kind of like the way that you do in The Last of Us 2. I'll explore the entire area before I want to move on into a next section where I know there's gonna be a cutscene or it's gonna trigger something here. Like I definitely want to get everything in this area before I go across. Try and get as much stuff as it. And I'm not a completionist. I have 1 platinum from Batman Telltale Games, and they give you that for completing the game. So that's it. That's all I got. What game would you like to see on the show? Now, obviously, you have a lot of say on what's going on the show. So, is there something that like you've been dying to get on, and you just think, oh, it wouldn't work for content, or is it something that you just haven't been able to do yet, or anything? Like, is that anything that's special to you that you just love to see no one play?
That's a good question. That's a great question.
Pagan Dan.
Thank you.
Pagan Dan.
Pagan Dan. Pagan Dan. That's a great question.
I can't think of anything. I mean,
I'm still waiting for my Akari Warriors.
Right? Akari Warriors is dope, man.
Hey, listen.
I love it.
Put it on the list.
If we hadn't already played like Contra and
I asked for Akari Warriors back in June last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally up on the table. You know what's great though, and I'm going to change the question a little bit, but
go for it.
With having guests on the show, and we're starting to get that up. What's great is we can a lot of these guests, whether or not they're celebrities or not, most of them have history in gaming, which is cool because I can ask them like, what retro game like do you want to play on the show? Yeah. And it's kind of cool, so they'll be able to like play games that they're super excited about, that they have a history about, and that they can talk about.
That'd be fun, actually.
And show Nolan, who's never played any of these games. So it's really cool where some of the choices now aren't going to be dictated by like what I enjoy. I think a lot of the new choices are going to come from like what our guests have like history playing, and there's stories there, of them growing up and getting into gaming that I think it'll be really cool. So I'm actually real excited about that.
How awesome would it be if you were able to get like Nathan Fillion on the show, and he'd be like, "Man, I grew up loving Pac-Man or something," and please. Let's play Pac-Man.
Yeah, he's actually a big Halo guy back in the day.
I mean, he's been in a bunch of Halos.
Him and PJ used to play a lot of Halo. Yeah,
because I think PJ had mentioned it before in one of his retro replay answers. He was like, "Oh man, I'd love to see Nathan on the show." And we're like, "Come on, make it happen! Let's do it! Let's do it!" Yeah. That would be really cool. But I think that's a really great answer as well. So like guests also bring part of themselves and part of their memories onto the show as well, rather than just coming in and being handed something. I think that's really nice.
That would bring a cool new element to the overall feel of the show too.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think, we'll always push for things that are timely as well. So I think it's going to be a combination of what's kind of relevant, and then what do people want to play? Maybe there's something. I think there are games that we may never jump into just because of the not being able to give it justice. We're real, like even playing the first Metal Gear, I was like, this lore is so deep, and the game is so long. Where I really want to play Metal Gear Solid, but it's kind of like there's not a lot of time, and that game is so cool, and I nerd out over it, and I want to see a lot of great things. I want to see a lot of great moments and reactions, but the show's not really about like going into the game, right? The game's just there to kind of like spark conversation
to facilitate the hang and the chat kind of thing.
Right. But I know people and I want to see it. So I know other people would want to see us kind of dive into those games. So, we're looking at maybe, is there another format for diving into those longer games? I think Liam and Todd might be a good place. Get Good might be a good avenue for those guys to jump into longer gameplays of some of our favorite, like old school, longer form storytelling games.
Yeah. So it's like even if you go back to some of the older episodes of Retro Replay and like, they're going to play Resident Evil 2. And I'm like, sweet, this is going to suck because they're not going to play it the way I want them to, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And Silent Hill, too. Silent Hill was like, oh, my God, like watching them try to, like, shoot the bird in the beginning of the game. Like, I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah. It's like you play a game that you love and you watch them play it and you're like, do I love this game?
Why do I love this game?
Yeah, it makes you question it because like they're not always good at it, and you kind of shake your head a lot, and you're like, I mean, it's tough for me watching in the studio where I'm like, just do the thing with the thing,
just do it,
and you're done. But you can't. You want them. Part of the show is watching that.
You want them to figure it out for themselves.
Figure it out, right? Yeah. That's the thing, right? So it's tough for me to just sit there and watch the.
That also happens at home, though. Like I will tell you, there has been so many times where just like, will you please just? Oh, for God's sake! So somebody get through. Like somebody get.
It's like calling out this last week's episode of Uncharted, where like Nolan got lost, and you chimed in. You're like, you're gonna go back to the boat that you were just on. And then you try to leave it at that, and he still doesn't know where he's going. And you come back like, it's the one with the turret. You're just there.
just there.
Needs a little bit of guidance.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like in your mind, you know exactly what to do, but to verbalize it, right? To give someone like clear direction, I feel like is difficult for sometimes. So I feel like I sound like an idiot where Nolan's like, "What do I do, Drew?" And I'm like, "Climb." I don't know what else to tell you.
Do the thing you do
the
in video games.
Yeah. Just go. Just do the thing. I don't know what I mean. Just hit the button that makes you do the thing. You know. So sometimes I feel like I'm like not helpful at all. But who knows?
Worries. Right, moving on to the next content is Uncle Noli. There are questions about this one, and I think one of them is, how often do you film something and laugh so hard but realize it's too dark to put on air? I feel like that was also a retro replay question, possibly. So that's one if you want to answer it. And how long were you guys like, when you had like Uncle Noli on the show, like how long did it take you to be like, we should make this our own kind of bit? Like who kind of came up with that? Was it Nolan? Was it you? Be like, let's do a segment.
Yeah. So to the first question, there are every now and then we do have something that like I'm like, well, I don't think that should ever see the light of day because we all want to continue. We all want to continue working in the future. So I mean, there are things and they'll never ever see the light of day. But for the most part, if it's funny, it goes on air. I mean, you'll see it in a show, in an episode. You know, we're not super like liberal where we're like cut that out because he said whatever.
Right,
you know, we're pretty
well,
much sure. The litmus test is like, does it make me laugh? And then I'm like, yes. Then it goes. We'll put it up. So usually the cutting room floor
me
actually
laugh, but did it make me laugh for the wrong reasons?
The bar is pretty low, basically.
The bar, yeah.
It's real low.
In fact, the cutting room floor would probably be boring because it's all the jokes that don't land, right? You know, you're kind of like,
no, yeah.
That's, you know, like we don't really have bloopers because the bloopers are the funny things, you know. So because it's not like a movie where you're like someone walking into a wall as a blooper. We don't really have those kind of things, but yeah, so to kind of answer that question, I mean, yeah, sure, Uncle Noli will go a little too dark sometimes, but that's fine. You know, we find just under the dark and we air all those, and then everything else that's not funny.
Nice.
We don't
everything else
but
it's all good.
I mean, to be honest, 99% of what he says goes up. Like it's rare that
I feel like he knows as well. Like he has a gauge of like what will land well with the replay community.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't stress enough how much of a professional Nolan. I mean, he's just like when the camera's on, like the guy, it's incredible. Like it's like you've activated something and he can just do what he
Nolan
does.
bot activated.
Yeah, I mean, but it's always great, and he knows when it's not great, and he'll retool. Like very rarely do we on set even need to say like, hey, let's try that again. Like he'll reset himself, be like, I want to do that again. We're like, great, cool, let's do it. You know, it's a pretty creative environment where we're all there to kind of have input, but at the end of the day, like having someone like Nolan on camera just makes our lives so much more easier because he's so great at what he does.
Nice. Great answer. And then with regards to like having the section, did you come up with that and be like, let's pitch this as an actual show?
I think Nolan wanted to do like a segment, and then we all kind of latched on it. We all saw the community sort of like latched onto the Uncle Noli Knows and the retro replay. And
we didn't do that at all.
So, you know, you take something and you see the community latch onto something, and we kind of sit around, we have production meetings, and we talk about, you know, what future content we want to make, and, you know, what are some great ideas. And Uncle Noli was one of those things that I think a lot of people latched onto right away, and we're like, you know, this could be a great just segment, and it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a lot of production time. You know, obviously we're putting more production time into it lately. You know, Steph's been doing a lot of work with the cool fun cards, you know, and doing different graphics and stuff, and so it makes it kind of fun. But we spend a lot of time early on a show crafting the look and the feel and the tone, so that when it airs, it feels like we put a lot of effort into it versus like just throwing something up and hoping people like it. So with Uncle Noli, you know, once the idea of the show was formed, like Yeah, it's Uncle Noli, and he's going to be answering questions from the audience, and it's going to be Uncle Noli, the character Uncle Noli, the kind of dirty uncle giving you advice that's not really great advice, but sometimes there's a nugget in there.
You get the gem.
But once we kind of knew that, we go back, and me and PJ and Steph, and we'll all kind of sit down and brainstorm. We're like, well, how do we want the show to feel? What's the opening look like? What's the titles look like? What kind of music do we want? So we all kind of collaborate. Nolan chimes in. He's like, yeah, no, I like the Mr. Rogers kind of vibe. Let's go with that.
I was gonna say, I love the Mr. Rogers thing.
The dirty style. So that gets our brains working, and we go and we find we film something, or we find something, we animate some new things, and voila. And we spend a lot. I mean, we probably spent 2 months just figuring out what the show was going to be, like the tone of it, right? Like really playing with the music, because we think the music really kind of like hits it really, like the comedy makes the comedy stronger, like with the little drum in the background and the way it stops.
It almost has like an Austin Powers kind of feel to it.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then we outsource like the Uncle Noli knows, so we have ideas, and we just sort of like, who's going to help us make this even better? And so we went to a sound house, and we kind of told them what we wanted, and then Boss House Music, and they kind of sent us some things, and we kind of tweaked it a little, and then we were like, what if we threw sometimes in there? And we're like, oh my god, that's
every time I'm waiting for the sometimes. I'm like, that is so great. That was such a good that was such a good take. I was like, that's genius.
Yeah, so
it really gets it.
It's a real collaborative effort in the studio, and everybody on Retro Replay kind of like pitches in, and it's I can't tell you. I mean, we always say this: if we're not having fun, we're not going to do it anymore. So we're all just there to have a great time and make some fun stuff that we're excited about, and we hope that you guys, out there in the community and on the channel, want to watch it and support it. So that's really all. So it's really about that. But Uncle Noli's, we love it. We filming it, we all just have a gas watching him do it. So it's great too.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that must be like live. Because it's just, I mean, he does some, like, he used to do like a small portion of Uncle Noli Knows live, I guess, like in the Retro Replay show. So that's great. I love that. So I'm loving that it's all just changed into an actual segment on the show. Like, oh, this is great. Brighten up your Tuesday. Is there anything in particular this week that struck you, or like was your favorite moment or anything this week?
I thought what I loved was it's always interesting when he goes really into like a actual good advice, like how to get over a porn, right? Addiction to porn.
I would say that's what I usually call out every week.
I was gonna say the same one, and what I was gonna say, Drew, is like it's actually a really great throwback, like right back to Terminator versus RoboCop, because that's easily one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Swear to God, I choked on tea. That was one of my favorite episodes because it went from such a weird dynamic, like talking about bartending to like shit that baby out the window, and then actual advice about porn and how it like changes like young people's minds and how he's raising young men and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, this episode has been a roller coaster, but I am so on board. Like I'm so happy with it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say the same point as you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird when there's like random, like, oh man, that's actually really good advice, because most of the time it's like, like I think someone asked him about like I don't know, make how do I get my wife to stop to make me a sandwich, and he's like at the end of it he's like tits, and I'm like, okay, well,
there's no
there it is, and it's great, it's hilarious, I think the other one I liked was how to best way to hide a body, and he breaks into like the different models of car, like an El Camino.
Car advice.
Yeah, and he's like, obviously a Tesla, because you can hide it in the front and no one's gonna notice, And I was like, that's great. That just means like if you're rich enough to own a Tesla, you can also hide bodies better.
We'll never check the front.
Right.
Never.
Yeah. Sweet. And didn't Grimm ask like, how do I avoid touching my face? And he's like, don't touch my fucking face. And I was like, oh shit.
Like, whoa.
Really? He's like, just chop off your hands. And I'm like, oh, that would work.
That works.
Yeah. He's done that before with something else. Like I can't remember what one, like a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago or whatever. And he's actually looked down the lens and be like, "I'll break your fucking legs." And I was like, "Okay, alrighty." Like so great. Dan, what about you? Did you have any favorite moments from this week?
Those ones.
Oh. That.
Dan, you didn't do your homework. You didn't do your homework this week, did you, Dan?
No, I do. I know. This was generally a really good one all along. Like, I loved like the brain freeze and like Steph's little edit where it turns him into like
Mr. Frost.
Yeah, Mr. Frost. Yeah. Stephanie on point with those edits. I love it.
Crushing it. Yeah.
I mean, you already called out like the best ones, like the making me a sandwich.
That's what I do.
I was also going to
take all the credit.
I always mentioned I like the ones where he gives actual advice. Like, it's always like he kind of sneaks in like actual solid sound advice in there, and then we'll end it with a dick joke, and you're like, ah.
Right. yeah. I think it is great when he does that, like especially when it is like getting a little serious, or it's getting a little too like this is really good fatherly and nice advice, and then he'll be like, but also dick joke, and you're like,
yeah,
good on you, Nolan.
Good on you.
Get in there in the end.
yeah. Well, because then he asked, like, he was like, what do you do to the annoying kid in class? And he's like, smack him on the head. You know, like, that's pretty good advice too. You know, there's weird. It's kind of like, you know, if I had Uncle Noli growing up, I think my life would have been a little bit different. I don't know, maybe.
Here's something that I thought of when he was talking about when my friend bugs me in class. What do I do? Right, I have a quick side tangent about that. I was in grade 3, so I must have been like 7 or 8 or something. Here's how you deal with the annoying people in your class. Someone was behind me and he kept like poking me. What you have to do is you have to give them a warning first. You just have to get a warning first, and then I turn around and I'm like, if you keep poking me, you're gonna regret it. Like, I will hurt you. And they were like, okay, whatever. And you turn around, they keep poking me. So I took my ruler as their hand was there to poke me again. And I went, psh, and it made the loudest slap ever. It quieted the whole class. And everyone was like, what the fuck? Teacher came down and the kid starts crying and everything. And I'm sitting there with my ruler in my hand being like, yes, teacher. She's like, what happened? And I was like, well, kept poking me. And then I turned to him and I said, don't keep poking me. Otherwise, you're going to regret it. And he did it. So I slapped him and she was like, oh, is that true? And the boy was like, uh-huh. And she's like, oh, well, okay then. Just like dealt with it. And I feel like that's how I deal with people who bug me in class. Give them a warning, because if you give them a warning and they continue, you have like, they accept all liability. Like they accept what the consequences. So what
would happen? Advice. What would you do in a video chat? Like, say, like, I keep annoying you. Like, how does it work? Could you punish
here?
Yeah.
I'm just exit chat.
exit chat.
I would commit to the bit and fuck off.
Good night.
To the bit.
All right, bye.
You'd be like middle finger and then peace out.
Basically. Yeah. I've been in chats with my friends where we've gone on so long, and I'm like, listen, I need to go to bed, because like a lot of my friends are like over in America, and it's like the time zone's weird. And I'm like, hey, listen, I gotta go. And they're like, oh, you're just gonna cut me off mid-sentence? I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Take care. And then I like actually end my conversation. I'm like, wow, I'm such an adult.
I love doing those kind of commit to the bits. And we've done them in the Zoom chat even before too, where it's like, hey, we're thinking about shutting this down. They're like, well, fuck us. And we're like, okay, broop, just shut it down.
Yeah, everyone will leave. Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
So that's kind of how. Either that or I'll make really loud, obscene noises, and then you'll eventually get annoyed and you'll leave.
Yeah, you just got to make sure you're moderating, and you can just mute everyone.
Like, see, now what you really got to do is just shit your pants.
Yeah.
Just shit your pants. Hey, friends don't let friends not shit themselves.
Yeah.
Best quote from Uncle Noli ever.
Although on a Zoom call, I don't think that's going to help.
Here's how it works in a Zoom call. You shit your pants, and then you take your shit.
Take the camera. Don't move your shit from where it is. Why are we into this?
Again, you got to clean your laptop.
Uncle Noli, bad influence.
I don't know.
So bad. Just have cameras set up in multiple directions. Have this shit set up literally.
See, now I'm picturing Cartman, insert cutaway here, like shitting out the back of his chair in that episode of South Park. Ma, toilet.
Dude. Or the Bridesmaids cutaway. I'm pretty sure that was in one of the episodes before as well, with the Bridesmaids cutaway, and she's like shitting in the sink, like, look away. Okay, anyway, that's probably
Anywho.
We'll actually move on to The Last of Us 2 run through with Anthony Caliber, because I think I noticed a lot of that kind of stuff in the first episode you guys did, where he was telling Nolan about the glitches, and that's how he can win the game, like how it makes
those speeds.
Yeah, because if you get that speed, obviously the game's gonna fuck up somewhere, and you're just like, oh shit, this glitch is gonna happen. Like firing off the empty gun or whatever into a corner. And I was like, that is fucking fascinating. Holy shit. Yeah. Or if you enter this level here without any ammo, David automatically gives you 3 more. And I'm like, what? That's so cool. Like I didn't know any of that. This week's episode, I think you guys did a lot more of Last of Us 2 gameplay.
Yeah.
So myself and Dan didn't watch it. So
sorry.
That's a fun show.
So
cowards.
Yeah. How did you like find the show? Like how did you come to this kind of this idea, and then how did you approach Anthony, and how do you find working with him?
Yeah. So when we were doing the original Last of Us, I think I saw in the comments a lot of people were, because obviously the gameplay wasn't spectacular. I think a lot of people were like, "Hey, you should have Anthony on to kind of like show you guys, how to, play this better." I would see that pop up in the comments in the comment section. I was like, "Oh, I never heard of Anthony before," and because I don't watch a lot of speedruns, that's not kind of like my pastime. But I looked him up and I was like, wow, this guy's actually like the world record holder. And we had already finished filming, and so it kind of didn't make sense to kind of bring him on at the time. But I kind of had it in the back of my head for when we were going to do something around The Last of Us 2. And obviously we're not going to be doing a definitive playthrough. I think Troy will probably take that on his own. I think it would be better if he did that on his own channel. It would coming from him. It'd just be more appropriate. So we wanted to still honor the game because of what we did with The Last of Us on Retro Replay. So having the idea of bringing Anthony on to kind of show Nolan the ropes a bit, and really just introduce him to the first game in a way that he had never seen before, in a facet that he had never seen before, to kind of like show him why Anthony is the best at this game, at the original game. And then let's jump into the second game and really understand like the differences, like talk about like why these encounters and what's different about the first game to the second game, talk a little bit about the storytelling aspect so Nolan understands the context of the encounters. And really it was just really understanding. What I love about Nolan is he can take The Last of Us is incredibly dark, and it's in places incredibly depressing and almost sometimes hard to watch if you're not into that kind of graphic gameplay. But Nolan can take something like that and add a little bit of humor and a little bit of levity to where I feel like it's a little bit more digestible, right? So he could take this horrible murder from a bloater and be like, oh my god, that was terrible, let's go have a dinner, let's go have Red Lobster. And you're like, what? It just it takes you it you don't have to dwell on the horror. You can sort of like, let's laugh about this because this is weird and I don't feel right for watching that, but let's all have that moment. But then let's have a chuckle because that's a good way to get over that kind of these horrific things that are happening.
Those
in the game.
Dark moments.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think it worked out pretty well, and I know a lot of people wanted to see like Nolan play through the game. The game is just incredibly long and it's dark, and we're just never.
I can't imagine Nolan actually playing through the game by himself, honestly.
Yeah. So this is a good way to kind of like introduce Nolan to the game, show him why the game is incredible, like why it got a lot of 10 out of 10s. Why, what the characters are, who they are, what the game is doing, like some of the incredible new like bloaters and infected that are in like we're gonna see like the Whistlers come up, and no spoiler, it's just a faction of another faction of humans. They're called Seraphites. Sorry, they're called the Seraphites.
The Scars.
They do this really cool whisper mechanic where they communicate through whistles. Sorry, not whistles.
I don't know if that's a spoiler, but I can't help. There was that moment where I first encountered the Whistlers, as you call them, and of course you get hit by an arrow, and my first thought was, is this the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy like attacking me? What's happening?
Right.
Yeah, because they whistle at you when it like throws.
And he whistled to control his little arrow to like and like
I remember that actually. Good point. Good reference.
I forgot about that. So yeah, I mean, I hope it seems like people are resonating. Anthony's like, he's technically savvy, so it's nice to watch somebody be able to get through the game, and especially the game is incredibly hard, and he's playing on like survival level for a lot of the even part two. I think he drops it down for some other mechanics because we just need to get through the episode or to get through some scenes, but it's cool to see somebody proficient, but then Nolan having those moments of like, oh my god, did that just happen in this game? Like
I saw I saw some of the episode in the bank.
Yeah.
And they're going to the drawers and they find the strange relic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Love it.
Oh, great.
Love that like moment where he was just like, oh my God. And like had this real kind of realization. I'm like, yes, Nolan. Yeah. This is how we felt.
That
like
was such a meta moment in that game too.
Yeah, it's so really great.
Cool. Yeah.
That was a really good moment.
Again, I mean, I can talk a little bit more about, you know, what's in the episode. I don't obviously I don't want to give away spoilers. But there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, there's a lot of fun Easter eggs that we go through on the Last of Us 2. We do go through the whole game and through encounters, not every encounter, but we kind of like progress through the game linearly. So we do Ellie's story, then we do Abby's story, and then we do parts of the finale, the prologue, as it were. So there are spoilers. Obviously, if anybody wants to like not watch it until they finish the game, we completely understand. But if you just wanted to get a good grasp of like what this game plays like and why it's so cool and how great this game looks, and see some of the dynamics, whether it's like how do I get around the dogs, or what are the Seraphites, and you know what's that encounter? What are the new abilities of the new Shambler and the Bloater? You know, you get to see some of that. Anthony walks you through some interesting ways to get through those parts and those encounters. Some where you take out a lot of people, some where you can just sneak by them. It's pretty cool. And he's only played the game once, but you can still see the way his mind works and how he like goes
he strategizes
strategizes through a level.
Yeah.
And he's not perfect. It's kind of fun. It's like watching someone like me play right now, where it's like I don't have the perfect answer, but here's a way I could get into this and get around this. And
so it's like Ryan was like happy that he did die in the episode. Like I saw Ryan's comments about he did die. There's a Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like it's nice to see somebody who's also like who is a very efficient player, but has only just played a little bit of this game. He's run through it once, so it's not like the Last of Us, which he spent so much time, probably years, on this game to try and perfect the record. So
he's had
I feel like
7 years.
It's interesting. 7 years to perfect this record.
That's incredible.
What was it? 2 hours 47 minutes.
Sounds right.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's like under 3 hours. It's incredible.
But I think it's also great because I think Anthony's personality seems almost stoic and very technical, kind of based everything, but he still has good banter. So that when Nolan does riff, he's not like shied away from it or anything. Like Nolan can still bounce, and I'm like, oh, this is a nice little dynamic because he's still very technical. But if Nolan throws a joke out, it doesn't like land pretty flat. Like, say for example, like the strange relic and everything. He's like, oh, he's just gonna throw it away or whatever. He's like, yeah, and then she puts it in her pocket, and he's like, wait, she keeps it? Yeah. Then why did you agree that she threw it out? And he's like, well, and he's like, like it's great. I think it's like it's at this moment where like the two personalities mix, and it actually works really, really well.
Yeah, it's good.
I appreciate it.
There's a segment, no spoiler, but there is a segment where Nolan does walk you through the perfect way to murder someone with a golf club. It's an interlocking grip, and you come at a 45 degree. He says use a wedge. So if you're looking for really good tips on like murder weapons and using golf clubs specifically, Nolan does provide some really good.
Nolan can use that.
Yeah,
I need to also mention and shout out the fact that I only just had this brought to my attention that Nolan made a golf club reference during the multiplayer playthrough, and God. It was whoosh at that time, and I'm just like, oh wow, like Nolan.
You can go back and watch that. We won't bring that.
Yeah, we won't go into that. We won't go into that. But I really enjoyed the dynamic, and I think the idea you had for the speed run, was beautiful. Like it's worked so well.
Cool.
People have picked it up really well. The community really like it, and I also think like Anthony's community really appreciate it as well. What are they called? The ant
colony.
Ant colony. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. So I feel like they've also had a really great response to this, and I can see some of them in the live chats as well, and Anthony in the live chats as well too. So it's really nice. I love when you guys do that, when you bring communities together. Like there's when you had Brian Deckard on, and we had the Deckard community on, and the Connor Army, and then mixing with the replayers, and then people got like really friendly, and it's really interesting. And some of them have actually expressed interest in the podcast, and like it's so nice to bring communities together. So I'm loving this content.
That's great. And if you guys have, any ideas, like anybody you want us to collab with in the future, maybe a few questions for your
how long you got?
yeah. I mean, and if it's possible, we all we can do is ask, and if there's a great idea around it, we can always reach out. And so we're looking to do more of this stuff in the future. So stuff like what we're doing with Anthony, more guests. So I think the future is really cool for Retro Replay. I mean, we're all really excited. I mean, you're already getting a lot of content, but I think as COVID starts to lift, the quality is going to get better. You're going to see more people. We're going to get more shows. So it's going to be great. Get Good is going to launch soon-ish. We're still waiting. Liam's shooting
in Australia, right?
Yeah, he's in Australia shooting a production. So as soon as that's done, he'll have a better schedule to kind of be more to where we're going to kick that off. So we're really excited to get that going. It's
still looking forward to all those new projects you guys were talking about a few months ago now.
Sure, on the Nolan's house, like in the backyard of Nolan's house, something like that. When Liam came on. Oh, dude, like we all, like I lost my mind. I was like, this is going to be so great because Liam's personality is just so like relatable and just approachable, and I just loved it. Like when he did the charity stream that you guys did in January, it worked so well, and Liam's energy is just so up there. And then I've popped into Liam's stream and Todd's stream, and they're just such wonderful guys. I can totally see this dynamic working so well on Retro Replay. So I'm excited to have them come on.
Yeah, Todd is really funny. He's a funny dude. I can't wait to get them on the channel. They're both great guys.
I've never actually seen Todd up until I started watching some of his streams because of the announcement of Get Good, and he's actually a really cool dude.
Yeah.
I have not watched Spartacus. I'm sorry.
I think that's the best thing. It's like they're great guys. Like they're just great to work with, and I think that comes across on their channel. Like they're just personable, relatable, and it's great to work with people that are like that. So it's also great to have more people on the channel that it's just we all having a good time. Yeah, and that we.
I also think Liam and Todd also have like a natural like affinity with the community. They're building that on their channels on Twitch, and I feel like they're really getting involved with who these people are. And this is how I was like, this is going to be great, because I know that they'll throw themselves full force into the replayer community, and everyone's going to love them, and they're equally going to show that support back, which I just think is really, really nice. The way they interact on Twitter, on Twitch themselves, I just think it's an excellent match.
Yeah.
Did I mention that was a good idea? That's a good idea. I approve. Thank you so much. Thanks for
I appreciate that.
I approve. How long does it take to arrange to film an episode, especially when it's with guests, and how far in advance do you film?
That's a good question, Amelia. It kind of depends. Like post-COVID, or pre-COVID, I guess I should say, we would schedule an entire day around filming. So, Nolan would drive down, and we would shoot, 2 episodes of Retro Replay. We'd shoot some Uncle Noli Knows. We'd maybe do a members live stream. We'd do some members content. We could do some Father Knows Best if we have time. So we kind of schedule a day and shoot as much as possible around a single day, because we're all busy, right? We all need to kind of like wrap up, do as much as possible within the time frame we have. With COVID, we can kind of do some things remotely, like Uncharted. So we can kind of schedule those that work around guests as well. So those can be a little bit more fluid.
Do you have them like scheduled a week in advance? Like, do you call Claudia and be like, hey, are you free next week? Or do you do them like 2 or 3 weeks in advance?
Yeah. So because of the post-production we put into the show, which makes them look so good and sound so great. Paul needs time to mix them so everybody sounds great and you can hear everybody over gameplay or bring down gameplay. And then Stephanie needs time to composite the gameplay so that it looks nice, or make cuts, or make glitch, cut out things that may been tech issues. So we need about a week to kind of before it goes live. We need about a week. Sometimes we can tighten that up. But in general, we'll shoot about a week out. So we try to schedule guests as far out as possible so that people can plan and prepare. So I don't have a solid answer, but just knowing our production time is a week out from air, we just need to be filmed. We need to have something in the can a week prior so that we can edit it and get it out the door.
Basically give the whole team about a week to put it all together.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more time we have, the better. And especially if it's not time, it doesn't need to be incredibly timely. Like obviously, The Last of Us is like a really timely thing, and we needed to get that out sooner than later, so it, people understand that it resonates. So, but things that don't necessarily have like a timestamp, if we could shoot that farther in advance, we will. So it gives us more time to work on it, make it pretty, and make it sound great. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. Let's see. There is another question here, and I think it is from Humam. Yes, it is Humam Wick. Humam Wick. Did you ever think that in the years to come, since the beginning of Retro Replay, that it would grow into such a large and kind community that is constantly now growing?
Oh, never in my wildest dreams. Actually, you always want something to be successful. So in your mind, you're like, oh man, I hope people like this.
Yeah.
We always set out to make something that we thought would be fun and we thought we'd have a good time making. So we kind of put our foot forward in that sense. But now that we have such a great community that has latched onto it, I've never, and actually to be fair, I'm on the internet a lot, and I've never seen a community so supportive and so like supportive of each other, and which is incredible. Like if someone's having a bad day, the community kind of helps and comes in and to lift those people.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've to be able to cultivate something like that. I have no words. It's really cool. And I don't. I'm new to something like that. And so it's kind of weird to have that community to be someone so supportive. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. This is amazing. And so I'm
this
like,
worked out really well.
yeah, and so I kind of want to help any way I can, and obviously support you guys and support community stuff, and we want to do everything we can to kind of help lift our community and our community members and involve as much people as possible. I know it's tough. It feels like we don't always like in the live chat, like Nolan's coming in and out of sessions. Like sometimes we have to schedule recording of like other things during launch days because of like Claudia's or Emily's schedule. We just have to shoot at like noon. We're like, okay, well, I can jump in. We can jump in for the chat for a few minutes, but so I feel bad when we can't always be there. During premieres, or if we miss like a tweet, or if people are asking for stuff in DMs, and we just we don't have we're still growing, I guess is what I'm saying, and as we grow, we'll be able to like bring on more people to help support community requests, and we'll have a good system for people that are having trouble, like Pagan, actually I think you emailed us about Amelia the other night and said Kessie, sorry.
Right.
No, it's okay.
And Kessie with her house, and we're like, oh my god, I mean, I would have missed that, to be fair, because on the weekends I try to unplug a bit, and for you to be able to bring that up and kind of help tell us so we can boost that up,
elevate it, and you guys support, did, and it's so great.
Yeah, and we man, I wish, again, we're still growing, we're still trying to figure things out, and we're here for the community, and we want to support everybody and all their endeavors too, and if they have things that they're trying to do, and whether it's like we're going to restart the community members live streams here shortly, once we get Nolan's schedule more locked down, and we can kind of figure out like tech wise what's the best way to do that. And then COVID, it's crazy what COVID did. And we were like going so strong, and then COVID kind of hit, and we were like, oh my god, everything kind of backpedaled a bit. But we're trying, I think we're getting back into that groove where we're making content, it's timely, we're starting to get back into how to support members more appropriately. Now that Troy's gone, obviously we're going to revamp our memberships and kind of really understand like what it means to support this community. So there's a lot coming down the line, and I'd say in the next 30 days it's going to be great. It's really going to be good.
Yeah, and I mean that was going to kind of move on to my next section, which would have been like, we usually throw it out to like the guests on the show to promote anything that they're coming up, or like socials or anything like that as well. Obviously, we all know where to find you at Retro Replay Show.
We're here to promote you.
Yeah, we're here to promote you guys. Did you know our podcast is about Retro Replay? Well, it is.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes.
There are
tangents. Good point.
There
are a lot of tangents. Yeah, but that's actually what I was going to ask you was, is there anything that is upcoming that you'd like to drop for us, or if there's anything that you're like really excited to do more of in the future? Like you said that you were going to discuss like membership benefits or membership live or getting guests into the show. Are you guys excited to get back into the studio and sort of having people there tangibly?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we're incredibly excited. I mean, again, this COVID thing, we're just trying to be as careful as possible, right? We just don't want what we don't want to do is start up again and then like
Have
someone
to
gets
shut it
sick.
down.
And yeah, and then it's just like dun dun dun. So we're
Yeah.
just trying to be incredibly careful on when's the right time to kind of open the studio back up for guests, especially, and when we can make sure everyone is safe. Because I mean, we all have families too that we want to make sure that they feel like we're doing the smart thing, not taking risks just to make a YouTube show. So it has to be right. We have to do it smart. And I think hopefully, we're starting to put processes into like to make sure we get tested, and we're wearing masks, and and we have like
Yeah.
air filters, and how do we air out the studio. And so we're going through and we're working through those processes on how do we get back into the studio. We've had to push. We thought we'd be back in right around last week. We thought we were going to shoot some more, but we've had to push it because of the rise in cases, and things just aren't going well here in the U.S. I don't know if you noticed.
No, do you know what? That's generally everywhere,
Yeah.
and we're predicting a second wave, and I think
Yeah.
everyone's looking at that now because people were just like,
Yeah.
okay, so we're going to phase 1 of lifting COVID, and everyone was like, cool, COVID doesn't exist anymore. And you're like,
Right.
that's not what happened. Oh, Jesus Christ, no.
Yeah.
It's gonna hit again.
For those that didn't know, I live in Houston, which has seen a massive spike. So like I was going back out into the world again, and now I'm like, nope, back to lockdown. Nope.
Yeah.
It's gonna lock down hard again, and that's I think like I would say probably a genuine concern for you, Drew. Like if they opened up for filming or whatever, say in August, and then in September there was a second lockdown, do you think that would affect you? Do you think that would affect you like harshly, or you'll kind of be like, okay, well, we've got this, we've already done
back to the formula,
and let's just go back to this formula because we know it works. I presume that would be an easier transition than it was the first time.
Right. Yeah, it would be. And I don't think we'll get back into the studio until where you can I don't know if we'll ever be able to guarantee a complete safety, but it feels like we've done everything in our power to make sure that we're safe and our guests are safe and the crew is safe. So as long as we all feel confident filming, what I don't want to do is do a show where we're all like, if someone coughs, that like we're all like, stop filming,
run.
Run, I just
don't
want and because I think that'll come across on screen, and we're not a show that wants to promote fear and like that. We want to have a good time, we want to entertain. So we just want to make sure that when we start filming again, everybody feels comfortable, and we're gonna be able to put out the best content we can. So I don't know when that's gonna be. So
it's
but what's great is
for everybody right now, right?
Yeah, and what's great, and to get back to your question, what's great is Get Good is going to be done completely remotely. Because Liam and Todd are in Australia, so we have to figure out a way,
obviously,
a great way to kind of port their streams together so that we can then push them to YouTube so that we can put out great content. And then we're gonna probably cut some of that content up and parse it out over the week, so it feels like you're getting a lot of Get Good over the week. And then Uncharted's going to continue. Obviously that will wrap up and we'll have to figure out what we do next, but we have ideas and I won't share them. But they are
how dare you, sir?
Oh well.
And then
we tried.
Yeah, and we're always looking to do these fun little one-offs. I think you're going to see more little fun things that we're going to try to engage with the community, whether could be more multiplayer, could be more live chats, could be more I don't know, maybe maybe you guys send us some stuff to react to. So there could be some more things down the line. We have ideas there too. I can't give too much away because we haven't locked it all down yet, but
good.
There's I think there's going to be a lot more community involvement, so stay close, stay watching on that. And then Uncle Noli will still probably be continuing with Uncle Noli, and Father Knows Best, I think, we'll continue to go. We'll look at what's next after Star Wars. Maybe it's Indiana Jones. Maybe it's Harry Potter. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, either of those I'm all down for. Yes.
Yeah. So there's some some fun stuff. I can't stress enough how excited we are. And even if this thing goes into, I don't know, next year, like February or March, we're not stopping. I mean, we'll figure out what we love the challenge. Like you guys know, like us trying to figure out how to do the multiplayer thing.
Yeah.
We love a good challenge. We're not gonna
Oh, that was a challenge, like right down to the wire. For anybody who doesn't know, like Drew and Paul pulled that off like 2 minutes before we went live, and I was like, "How did you do this?" I was so gobsmacked because I was like,
I think we've mentioned it on the podcast before too, that we were literally sitting there like, "Are we gonna be on?
I don't know.
Like,
right down the wire.
Yeah.
But you guys pulled it off. It was fucking.
The show must go on.
Show must go on.
Well, I'd like to hope that you learned something from that experience that has enabled you to make the Uncharted playthroughs work the way they do.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. And what's great about Uncharted though is they're not live, so we're able to do some nice compositing there. So you get really clean gameplay, no lag, and it looks really. And the sound is great. And the way we record everybody on Zoom works out really well. The live dynamic changes things quite a bit, right? Because you want to make sure you have. There's just a lot more issues that go into doing something live like that. But it worked out, and I think what you're going to see with Todd and Liam, I think is going to be a taste of what the future is going to be like for a lot of content shows in the future. What we're trying to do with that show, I think I'm not going to say it's going to break ground or anything, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and I think a lot of people were trying to figure out ways to work during this crazy time, and we've partnered with a tech company that's helped us like kind of put something together that will work well for what we're trying to do with them and their streaming and whatnot. So
sweet.
And if you are like, I mean, are you guys open to ideas from replayers in the community? Like, if there is a place, like, can they send it to you in ideas? Do they tweet it at you?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is always good. I think if you want to get something formal across, I think if you can email members@retroreplayshow.com, that's a good place for us to compile ideas and any questions you may have, whether it's regarding memberships or just kind of questions regarding the show in general. That's a good place to kind of reach out, where we can then that'll find its way to me or PJ or Nolan, and we can make sure your question gets answered or put out or take note of it and do something about it on the show. So that's a good place to reach out. And then like engage on Twitter. Obviously in the live chats, we're all like, if it's not me, PJ's there. If it's not PJ, Nolan's there, Coop's there, Paul, Stephanie. So there's always usually somebody in the live chat kind of listening in and taking note and commenting. So if there's a good place to, ask questions or whatnot. And obviously if it's timely or if it's phrased in the right way, no hate thrown our, we're not here to start wars or any battles. Yeah, exactly. You got
that's game over, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Game over.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey replayers, thank you so much for watching part 2 with Drew Lewis and myself and Dan.
We want to just remind you guys to go ahead and like and subscribe us on YouTube and or Anchor and all the podcasting platforms where you can find us.
Your support means everything. Feel free to share it all over to your socials too if you want to spread the word about the Replayer Podcast. If you'd like to go a little bit step further, you can hit the Anchor support link in the description box below and support from as little as $1 a month. If you want to be on the Replayer Podcast, email us at thereplayerpodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at the Replayer Podcast. Thumbnail.